a broker-dealer and a registered investment advisor. The Securities under separate ownership from any other named entity. The views depicted in this broadcast are general in nature and provided for information. The views are not necessarily those of Santita Advisory LLC. They should not be considered as specific investment or tax information is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy. Keep in mind that investing involves risk, including loss of principal.
Potentially, these are some things that'll make
goal, horizon, and tolerance for risk. Consult your investment.
That'll make you, that will. Some things that can hurt
dedication?
Congregations,
My daughter started making
We have 4 minutes, just so you had it.
affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. If there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around. And I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself. And me never just wanted to get back on it.
All right.
People
Okay,
ask,
so let's just
how
make
your
sure that we
children
can hear
learn
the
how to ride
pastor
bike, and you
on
didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves. And all I had to do was be there.
That's dedication. Visit
Okay.
.gov.
Pulling up Facebook now.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
We don't want you on our team. You're too slow and fat.
This is weight bias.
I'm worried about your weight.
Don't you care what other people think?
And ask Daryl Jones if I can move him to the top of the hour.
Face weight bias every day.
Okay.
You're not the right fit for this job.
Because I had to move this
Unfair
other
judgment
gentleman
by
in.
others.
You don't have to say
Just
that.
stop eating so much and exercise some. You
But
lose all this weight.
I only have a
These
few
people
minutes
often
with
blame
him.
themselves.
He's a
It's just
former
me.
prosecutor.
Nobody likes
And all
me.
these people work with
I
Fonnie
do
Roy.
exercise and eat right. And I talk to my doctor.
Weight bias hurts.
Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect.
Your words and actions matter.
Let's stop
Yes, sir.
weight bias.
Let's work together.
Testing.
Be
1,
part
2,
of the
3.
solution.
ABC.
Go to
Testing. 1, 2,
stopweightbias.com
3.
and learn more.
ABC.
A public service
Testing,
message from
testing,
Obesity
testing.
Action
Can
Coalition.
you hear him?
All right. Everyone sounds loud and clear on my end and on the Facebook.
Okay, very good.
Chances are it came from a puppy mill, a breeding facility that
I believe we have 2 minutes, but let me run in the back and check real quick.
Okay,
churn out
perfect.
puppy
Thank you.
after puppy to be sold for
All
profit.
right, let's get right
Meanwhile,
to it, everybody.
millions of
Hey,
wonderful,
y'all.
healthy
We're going
pets
to talk
end up
about
in animal
the
shelters.
Trump indictment
This leads
today.
to the killing of more than
He did say if
9,000
he got
by the
one
end
more
of today.
indictment, he got
But
the
with
election
one
in the
simple
bag.
choice, you can help. Just by
How many of you
deciding
think
to
that that may
adopt
be
instead
true?
of purchase your next pet. Animal shelters are full of amazing pets looking for a home. When you adopt
Pastor,
your
you
new
got an
best
opinion?
friend,
I
not
think
only
this is
are
gonna
you
be a
safe,
wild
you're
ride.
taking a stand against
It's a very well, right?
friends see the
Ooh,
smart
okay.
choice and impact you've made. They adopt
Oh,
their next
man.
pet and share with 5 of their friends. Who share with
Oh,
5
Hey,
more.
I'll be watching.
Before
I'll be
long,
watching from Morocco.
thousands get involved. Pet stores stop selling dogs from puppy mills. Even more lives are saved.
I am not
Get
mad
on
at
your
you.
profit.
We can save them all. Visit bestfriends.org/puppymills to
Oh
learn
my
more.
gosh. I mean, because it's
Pre-record these sermons.
Alrighty, 60 seconds.
Okay, Africa's rocking too. I don't know what you're talking about.
You know, when Roe v. Wade
And
was
it ain't
kicked to the
cuckoo.
curb, it was like,
That's
oh, we're just going to let the
that's that
states make
part.
these decisions. But then all of a sudden, we heard people saying,
Get over there,
well,
honey.
you know, we should go after gay
Like,
rights
friends of mine-
next, and
some friends of
let's
our
do
family got
total
caught in
abortion
Jamaica
bans. And
when they
by the
overthrew the
way,
government
you know, maybe we should
during the Manley
rethink
period.
no fault divorce. And it's
was
like,
like,
what else can we
these folks
do
had
to
leave
take
these
this country
fabulous
back
homes
to the
right
50s?
behind, okay?
If they had just done one or two
Oh my
things here or
gosh.
there,
You can't
they
make this
wouldn't
stuff up.
have created this backlash
Oh boy!
that
But,
they're
hey,
experiencing
everybody,
now. But they
like and
just
share the
can't
show, and I want you to
stop
call us at
themselves.
773.
Oh, wait a minute, we're not doing abortions. Yes, but they might go out of state. Oh, let's figure out a way to go get
773-763-9278. I need you to
them
bring it
and
down
make their
just
lives
a teeny.
miserable. They can't help themselves.
That better?
No, babe, that was down too much. I took just a tinge. A little. Okay,
Alexa. Perfect. All right, about to start.
All right, have a great show.
from TuneIn.
Yes.
The world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world. I
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Tuesday, August 15th, 2023. I am Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, at AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Hey, Dave. Hey, Carol from New York City. Hey, Andre, my godbrother here in Chicago. And Kenneth Rush. Hey, sweetie. And Susan from LA. I got a lot more and more of you coming from LA. I love it. I love it. Raphael, how you doing, sweetie? Kenneth and Robert and Ari down there in Brazil, sending everyone so much love today. Hey, Nicole. And let's talk about what these charges, what they entail, why it's important that it's a state case as opposed to a federal case. Well, with the federal case, you can get a presidential pardon. With the state case, guess what? You can't get pardoned by the president, and the pardon only works after you've served your time. And there's a mandatory minimum of 5 years for one RICO charge. Wow. So we got a lot to talk about today. What is this going to look like? Will they be able to start this trial in 6 months? Many legal experts say that it's highly unlikely, but given the politics of the situation, that just might happen. Who knows? It's all political, everybody. Doesn't mean that the charges should not have been brought, but everything is highly politicized. I guarantee you're going to hear much more about the Hunter Biden case and other political figures. That is just the way. Those are the times in which we're living. So just go on and fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy, interesting ride. I'm Santita Jackson. I want to hear your thoughts today. I want you to call me at 773-763-9278 and let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you're thinking, everybody. Former President Trump claimed that he needed only one more indictment to win the 2024 election. He said, quote, anytime they file an indictment, we go way up in the polls. We need one more indictment to close out this election. One more indictment, and this election is closed out. Do you think that is true? Call me at 773-763-9278. You cannot make this stuff up. Call me. I want to hear your thoughts today. At the top of the headlines, of course, Donald Trump was charged in a 2020 election investigation in Georgia, the former president, and 18 others, including America's Mayor Rudolph Giuliani and his former chief of staff, Mark Meadows. They were indicted yesterday in connection with efforts to overturn Joe Biden's victory in the state of Georgia. President Trump faces 13 counts violating Georgia's Racketeering Act. It follows a 2.5-year investigation by Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis, who went to Howard, by the way. Thank you very much. A Montana judge ruled yesterday in favor of young climate activists. The state violated the right of the 16 young Montanans to a clean and healthful environment through a provision blocking climate considerations in energy projects. The death toll from the Maui wildfires has risen to 99. We need to really investigate this, Pastor Thurston. Something's very interesting that's going on. A lot of people on the island are very angry because they are saying that this was where the working poor and the working class and the few middle class who are left in Maui, this is where they were. This was the historic spot in Maui. Indeed, this was the first capital of the Hawaiian Islands. And they have been under attack by conglomerates and the very wealthy on the island and around the world because people want that land that they are on. And now the land has been burned up. And their insurance money is not going to be able to pay to rebuild their homes. No. So, the more I hear about it, the more it just sends chills up and down my spine. Searchers will probably find 10 to 20 victims a day for the next 10 days. Indeed, more than 1,000 people are missing, everybody, even as the number has risen to 99. Praying for the people of Maui, everybody. Federal guidance shows how colleges can still address race in admissions. Colleges may still consider race in personal statements, recommendation letters, data collection, and recruitment efforts, according to the Biden administration. The Smithsonian has at least 30,700 human bones and body parts in storage. The Washington Post spent a year examining the National Museum of Natural History's collection of human remains. It includes mummies, skulls and teeth, and 255 brains. Many parts were taken without consent and used to further racist theories. So I wonder who you think Whose body parts are there? Oh boy, the Women's Cup semifinals are underway. Who's going to take home the prize? Will it be Spain? Will it be Sweden? Will it be Australia? Will it be England? We'll know on Sunday. All right, everybody. And Michigan State students found a 142-year-old observatory buried on the campus. Construction workers hit a hard surface when installing hammock poles this summer, and they found this observatory. Wow, for astronomy, dating back to 1881. In Chicago, it feels positively autumnal today, everybody. It feels like autumn. That's why you see me with my it's a cotton sweater, everybody, but it is a sweater. Chicago, we're going to have a high of only 72 degrees, Pastor Stephen Thurston. Showers. It has been raining all night long. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 80 degrees and clear. And in Major League Baseball, White Sox versus the Cubs tonight. Yes, our crosstown series is in full effect, and it will go through tomorrow night. It starts at 7 p.m. The Tigers will be facing off against the Twins, and then the WNBA, well, both the Lynx and the Sky had the night off. And there you have it on the headlines. Pastor Stephen Thurston, you've had some very exciting news for us at New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church.
Yes, ma'am.
What is that exciting news?
After 45 years of leading that congregation, my dad decided to get out the game, hung up his cleats and retired, and asked me to step back in to lead that congregation that our family has pastored for the past 89 years. So excited to build on the past and see if we can push this thing forward.
Well, I'm so glad I've got another church. There we go. I love it. I love it.
Yes, ma'am.
So proud of you. So proud of you. And very excited to see.
Thank you.
You, the Thurstons, carrying on this tremendous tradition. You all are preaching machines. There is an anointing that is passed from one generation to the next. I'm a witness, and so are my parents.
Yes, ma'am.
Everybody, what is the address of the church so that people can come by and be with you on Sunday? And at what time do you worship?
Sure. Our services starts at 9 o'clock, and we're out around 10:15. So you've got the balance of your day to do what you need to do. It's located at 754 East 77th Street. If you're in Chicago, that's the corner of 77th and Cottage Grove. But we're also on Facebook Live, YouTube, and then our live stream on our website, New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church, Chicago. You'll find us there. Plug in with us. We're doing some cool stuff to minister to the misery of the masses with the mercy of the Master. That's what we're seeking to do in our community.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Oh, I'm so proud of you and so excited for you. So now give us some good news.
Well, cool. Thank you so much, Santita. And we're talking about friendship today, which you and I are. And if you remember back, those of you who are R&B fans, way back in the day in 1992,
oh, my word.
There was a group called TLC. And they dropped an album, Ooh, on the TLC tip. And on that album was a song entitled, What About Your Friends? It communicated that friendships matter, and they really do. Listen, our true friends are fixtures in our lives. True friends help us to sustain through good times and support us through trying times. And to fully understand the power of friendship, you have to first fully understand the meaning of friendship. Listen, it's a voluntary relationship between people who are concerned about each other that develops from shared interests and experiences and is mutually gratifying. And friendship in its truest form is backed by mutual love and respect. It's an experience that you cherish, not something that you dread. True friend leaves a lasting imprint on your soul and your heart, and nothing changes that. Although life may throw some turbulence in the path of the relationship from time to time, true friends are able to stick through, Santita. Now, the saying goes that a real friend is like a four-leaf clover, hard to find and lucky to have. Finding a real friend, it can be tough, but here's the critical key. Attracting real friends requires that you be a real friend yourself. So let me help us today by giving us a few characteristics of a real friend so you'll know what to look for in other people, but more importantly, what you need to develop within yourself, because it takes you being friendly to get some friends. Let me slow down and say that one more time. It takes you being friendly, mean people, for you to develop some friendships. So, number one, the first thing I want you to recognize about real friends is that friends can be trusted. They prove to be reliable and genuine and put your mind at ease instead of causing you anxiety. So if you got people in your life that you call friends, but every time you see their number pop up on your phone, anxiety kicks in. Hey, I'm coming to hang out. I'm coming to town, coming to visit. And you got to take some pills. Maybe that's not a friend. Maybe you need to reclassify that relationship. So number one, friends can be trusted. Number two, friends see you as equal. They're never threatened by your happiness or your success. The opinions that you have, they're worth your friend's attention. Number three, friends respect your decisions. They want you to make decisions that you're comfortable with. Now, they'll expose you to new things, different ideas and experiences and thoughts, yet they'll still respect your boundaries. Number four, friends share the spotlight. They can listen to you without relating everything back to themselves. They support even when there's nothing in it for them. They get that it's okay for it to be all about you sometimes. They're supportive of your achievements and sympathetic to your struggles. Number five, friends see your point of view. They have a willingness to negotiate rather than a desire to win. And so you all will seek to arrive at a compromise when you don't see things kind of clearly eye to eye. That they'll also hear you out and try to understand why you feel the way that you do. They'll try to put themselves in your shoes. Number six, friends know how and when to apologize. Listen, everybody makes mistakes, misses the mark, drops the ball, but a real friend can recognize when they've crossed the line and will do their best to make it through to the other side of the relationship through some changed behavior. And then finally, friends allow you to be yourself. They see it as a good thing that you have different ideas, different hobbies, interests, thoughts, and opinions, and they embrace the things that make you different from them, welcoming your unique point of view and appreciate what makes you, you. So listen, today, I want you to be more friendly so that you can attract more friends. And listen, let's begin to clearly categorize people in our lives, because everybody we say friend really isn't a friend. So let's make sure we put people in their proper place, and let's make sure that we do our best to be friendly to those that we come into contact with. That's my time. Thank you for your time today.
I love that. Thank you for that. Because several of my closest friends I've been sharing with you have gone on to glory over the past couple of years. And I haven't cried a lot about them because I know that they have gone on, and I look forward to seeing them again. Not real soon, but
right, someday.
Just in time. Some glad morning. Let's drag that out. But that having been said, I really appreciate their friendship more and more and more and more and more every day. So I said, wow, they took our confidences onto heaven with them. And I thank God for that. It means so much. And I love you, Pastor Stephen Thurston, on Sunday.
Thank you for being my friend, Santita.
Thank you for being my friend. And you truly are my friend and my beloved, Stephen Thurston. And our families have been friends now for 60 years. And I'm glad that we have gone forward. We just the Thurstons and the Jacksons keep on rolling along. Your grandfather mentored my father into ministry. And then when your father got the church, my father went and supported him. And when he started Operation Breadbasket, Operation Push, but we have been together a long time. Long time. Through a whole lot. And I thank God for you. Are you still going to be doing your Facebook Live encounters? Okay, so you're going to be on this Friday.
I'll be on this Friday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Stephen with the PH, Stephen Thurston on Facebook. Come on, catch me and go back and watch last week's. We had a great time. I focused on leadership or relationship. Those are the two lanes that you can find me on Fridays on Mirror Moments, Facebook Live, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Sending you so much love. Pastor Stephen Thurston, New Covenant Missionary Baptist Church. Yay, everybody, 77th and Cottage Grove, 9 o'clock on Sundays. Get on over there. I'm going to run out of my job and get on over there. Go run from downtown. I just slip in about 9:25. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. I got to get down there. But I'm sending you so much love today. Blessings to you, Stephen Thurston. You know, we've got Reverend, but you've got your ministerial and your zeal. I always make that slip with you, Dr. Shanita Knighton, registered nurse, infection preventionist. And, you know, we've been looking at these Maui fires. They're very disturbing. These are really the worst. This is the worst fire disaster that we've had in the United States in the past, at least in 100 years. And we're finding out more and more that is disturbing about it. This is where the working class and the middle class people in Maui lived. This was the original capital of Hawaii. So a lot of the buildings there were historic buildings and meant a lot to indigenous Hawaiians, and now they're gone. But this was also land that conglomerates and very wealthy people wanted. This was the last beautiful oceanfront land and vast swaths, vast tracts of land they'd been trying to force the people who lived there to sell. So there's something that we're going to have to look into that. That having been said, Dr. Knighton said, you know, we need to look at infection prevention because these people are inhaling a lot of fumes, not just smoke, but a lot of stuff. There's a lot going on. Infection prevention. What is your concern when you see what's happening in Maui right now?
It's honestly tough to even, you know, think about that space in general, Santita, because it is so much going on. And honestly, like in an overwhelming state of mind, meaning, you know, we're talking about something burning, you know, just in general. So people, long story short, seriously in survival mode. So where I ain't gonna lie, like honestly, in this particular instance, it's hard to even think about infection prevention and control when you're thinking about just trying to live, you know, because there is, let's say, a significant amount of smoke inhalation. There are dry conditions, you know, where again, we're talking about people's mucosal membranes being compromised. And when I say mucosal membranes, we're talking about anything that requires a moist environment, whether that be your eyes, whether that be the environment of your mouth and your nose, which would typically be areas that would keep germs and things out. And if you can imagine looking at some of those videos of people actively, you know, driving through fires, it's crazy because, you know, you talk about in biblical times of somebody driving through hell, like this is very, you know, disturbing to even be able to see that those individuals are going through that. But Santita, I keep mentioning this because we saw what happened in Canada and how that compromised our air quality. We're looking at what's happening in Maui right now and survival that is taking place. And then even before that, the fact that there was a hurricane, you know, and this is the side effect of them having that hurricane, is the same exact thing when we start looking up and we're going into this fall. We're in hurricane season now, but we know that, you know, around these months on the East Coast or hurricanes coming from the East Coast, things tend to pick up, which means that, yes, while someone may not directly be in the pathway of a hurricane, they may be in the pathway, let's say, of a disaster afterwards. So we really have to ask ourselves, what should we be thinking about in terms of preparatory material? And I'm looking at my clock right now, so I know I got to get off of this radio. So I'm going to end there.
No, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes on the other side. Okay. I think that's very important because these people, prior to, was it August 4th or 5th when this began? They were not planning on this. It's these things come out of the blue on you, everybody. They come out of the blue. So let's just a couple of minutes on the other side. I think it's important for us to pay attention to it, particularly as I begin to see more and more videos from people who live there. And when I see their anger, they're saying they're not getting the help that they need. Of course, you got the Hawaiian Islands, so there's that. They're questioning all of the resources that are going to countries all around the world and saying, what about me? But they're also saying, you know what? We've been trying to hold on to this land for quite some time. Our conglomerates and wealthy people have been trying to buy this land from us. We're the last of the middle class and working class people who are here. And we're indigenous Hawaiians, or we've been here for generations upon generations. And so they're asking the same questions that people ask in Lower Ninth Ward in Louisiana. Is this a way of moving us out? This fire is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And it's interesting, very, very wealthy estates have not been touched. Just that area. Oh boy, but let's talk about infection prevention just for a couple of minutes on the other side with Dr. Shanina Knighton. Coming up, I want you to call me and let's talk about this Trump indictment. What does it mean? What kind of cases is Fonnie Willis building? Howard, you know I love it. I love it. I love it. Howard folks are doing it all over the world. I love it. I'll be back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. Okay, if you can bring that down just a bit, it's a little hot. You know, for me.
Is that better?
No, what? No, because you're bringing it down too much.
Make these decisions.
How's that?
All of a sudden,
No, bring it
we
up a
heard
little bit
people
more.
saying, well, you know, we should go
Better?
for gay rights next,
A little
and,
louder.
and let's do total abortion
very
bans.
good.
And oh, by
You know, you
by
can
the
bring
way,
it down
you know,
during the
maybe we
break,
should
but it's a little
rethink,
hot during the show.
no
Okay.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's like, what else can we do to take this country back to the 50s?
I have Daryl Jones, Dwight McKee, and CK ready to go.
Okay,
I'm pulling
please.
up the.
Here or
Mr.
there,
Lamar,
they
Attorney Lamar, I
wouldn't
need him.
have
Yes, I'm
Okay.
grabbing him right now.
Okay, very good.
that they are experiencing
You
now,
know
but
what,
they
Daryl?
just can't stop themselves. Oh, wait a minute.
And
We're not
CK,
doing abortions, yes, but they might go out of
CK.
state. Oh, let's figure out a way to go get them.
Dwight is going to be, Dwight's just
They
listening
can't
for
help
now.
themselves.
But I was able to pull in your friend Keith Lamar. He just sent me a text. CK. So I want to find out from him his thoughts about this as a former prosecutor. Okay. And then I'm
Well,
going
he worked with.
Yeah.
It's what time he worked with Fonnie Willis.
I know. That's why I want to pull him on.
WCPT Willow Springs. And
Right.
And he was gracious. Well, I mean, you're the one who brought him to me.
Where facts matter.
Come on.
Alexa, play WCPT.
You're the one who brought him.
WCPT from
That's why
2.
I came up with the genius idea.
Victor deployed for the first
I
time
did
to
not.
Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my
So I
phone
want
rang.
to,
They said, I regret
we
to
need to hear
inform
what
you
he has
that
to
your
say.
husband was wounded in action.
but you all
Victor
can talk
sustained
during the
a
break.
moderate
How is
traumatic brain
how is
injury.
everybody
I was
doing this
doing
morning?
school full time. And I was also then
Okay,
caring
it
for
needs to
Victor.
come down just a bit.
One of the
during
most
this
important
break.
elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life.
Dwight,
What I did
we're
is
gonna keep you on
challenged
mute,
Victor
right?
to meet me halfway.
Uh-huh.
6
Okay, very
million
good.
military and veteran caregivers across the nation.
But you can
We
speak
have
to
our
them in
own
the
journey,
meantime,
and
Daryl and
we can fulfill that
CK.
journey at the same time that we are
What's up, CK? Hey, Daryl.
AARP.org/caregiving.
Good morning, Dwight.
Veterans Guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Attorney Lamar is on the line.
Okay,
Public
very
health,
good. Attorney
extreme
Lamar,
weather,
how
the
are you?
economy,
Can you
and
bring
more.
that down just a
Climate
bit?
Connections
During the
makes
break,
global-
bring it down.
doing?
I'm doing
Okay.
great. Thank you so much for responding to my text. I know that you're very busy, but of course, Attorney CK brought you for such a time as this. She's, of course, with us.
Exactly.
That's right. And I've got
I
CK here.
couldn't miss this when I saw the text, but no, I couldn't miss it. I was like, oh no, we got to make this happen. Dave.
Oh.
You got to make it happen.
Thank you, hon, because we want to know what your thoughts are. And, you know, and you can tell us a bit about Fonnie Willis. And of course, I know she's great because she went to Howard. What?
All day, all day.
Oh.
She's definitely a good person. I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Oh, man. Yeah, 'cause, boy, this is going to be a very interesting season. And doubtless Dwight's going to say something that's going to have everyone want to throw him off the phone. But you know what? We're here for it.
Hey, I love it.
Currently, it's 64.
Oh my goodness, this is just a lot. Dwight, you know you are.
I'm just wondering how that man is, how Trump is feeling this morning. I know he's going to be twittering out some things.
Got about a minute and a half.
I think his heels are dug in for a fight.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's no doubt about that. That's for sure.
It is hard to take someone like that. You might get down, but you're not going to stay down.
Oh yeah, he can fight to the end.
Oh my gosh.
No doubt about it.
You are poking the bear. And
I don't know how you deal with so much. Rubber president, cases all over the country. It's like you might want to calm down.
Because my father's like that. The more someone called him, and this guy didn't like him very much, but I knew it. He didn't know that I knew he hated my father with a passion. He said, he's like an old racehorse. The more you shovel crap his way, the higher he climbs.
I like that.
No, and I'm not making Trump reverend or anybody like that. What I'm saying is that it takes a certain kind of mentality to hang in there the way that he does.
Oh yeah, and, everybody can't do that. A lot of people definitely been under such pressure.
Yeah, it's just I'm just talking about the kind of person that these type A alpha male in extrema, all of that. It's just it's an interesting group.
30 seconds.
I was just looking at it like this man here is keep going. All right, surprised he ain't have stroke or something out here. That's a lot of pressure.
He's trained by Roy Cohn, Mafia. What? It's the Trump organization.
He is the Don.
Not even the Trump group. Come on now. He's a street guy.
Yeah, he is the real life Don. We're watching him.
And he's in the right space because politics is a street fight.
Stand by.
Real clear on that. Stand by.
Where facts matter.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, Tuesday, August 15th, 2023. It's a joy to be with you today as we pivot to talking about the Trump indictments, and I want you to call me. Not just the indictment in Georgia, that's, the fourth one, former President Trump says, will be the charm. He said, anytime they file an indictment on me, we go way up in the polls. We need one more indictment to close out this election, one more indictment. And this election is closed out. Well, he got it last night. And so what is going to happen here? An indictment, will he be convicted? There's a mandatory minimum of 5 years for a RICO charge. Okay, I'm just getting feedback, so let's work that out. Okay, everybody, but before we do, we're going to be looking more at Maui because this is where the poor people, the middle class people, the working class people in Maui have lived. Those wealthy people need people to run the town, to run the stores, to run their homes. Well, that's where they lived. And it's also the historic spot where they lived. That was the first capital of Hawaii, not Honolulu. It was there. And so, and the conglomerates, the big business people, the big businesses have wanted that land. They have been engaged in a fight. So when you listen to a lot of different kinds of news sources, you hear people who are angry right now. They're saying we didn't get the help that we needed. We were not properly warned. It's a lot of stress, which can make you sick. But I wanted to give, we're going to talk about this to a greater extent, but I wanted you, Dr. Shanina Knighton, because, C.K. Hoffler, you never know when something's good. I mean, these emergencies come out the blue. And your concern has been infection prevention in this particular time. A couple of minutes, and we're going to talk about this more tomorrow and in the days going forward. But why is infection prevention a concern for you and with respect to the people of Maui right now?
So I was mentioning, Santita, just in regard to standing water, the lack of resources, when we're talking about the proper storage of food, when we're talking about the proper storage of medications, and the fact that some individuals don't even have access to those materials, it is of concern because we are talking about that risk. Now, don't get me wrong, like there are, certain organisms that do not do well when we're talking about heat. But there are a lot of organisms that when they get amongst like the right temperature, meaning that it is a warm environment, but not warm enough in order to be able to kill them off, that they do tend to have the ability to spread. So when we're talking about Maui, just as I mentioned, even a couple of months ago when we were saying about how the floods were causing sewage backup in people's basement, anytime that we're dealing with, let's say, a situation of standing water, anytime we're dealing with the situation of where individuals cannot properly store things, cannot properly cook things, you are running that risk, unfortunately, of infection. And so with that being said, I know one of the things that, was disturbing to the residents there, as well as others like us that are looking on, is the fact that their emergency response systems were not activated when they should have been. It's the fact that individuals may or may have not even recognized those systems because they hadn't used them in so many years. And so I encourage people, as we're thinking about not only just infection prevention, but prevention in general, is to understand what do those emergency sirens sound like. Checking with, political leaders to understand how often are we checking those systems should a natural disaster ensue. And more personally, when you are thinking about your loved ones and your family members, if something were to occur, do you have some sort of contingency or backup plan in place when it comes to communication and being able to gather, when it comes to survival mode? And while none of us can actually think about being in this situation, it's important for us to prepare because we never know.
Dr. Shanina Knight and everybody. Hey, Dr. Nina, we'll be talking about this particular crisis as we go forward because these were sacred lands for the Hawaiian people. And there's a lot to unpack here, not the least of which are healthcare concerns. Sending you much love, Dr. Shanina Knighton. Well, let's talk about what happened last night. The fourth indictment did come down. Fani Willis gave us the signals that this was going to happen. Indeed, Fulton County District Attorney was charged former President Trump yesterday with 2020 election interference and the attempt to defraud the American people, the people of Georgia, and thus the American people, of the duly elected president, Joe Biden. So the former president and 18 others, including America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani, wow, and his former chief of staff, Mark Meadows. The chief of staff is about the second most powerful person to the president, about second most powerful person in Washington, D.C., because they are the gatekeeper. They decide who sees the president and who does not. Well, they and 15 others, in total 19 of them, were charged. What does that mean? And Fani Willis says that she wants to try them all at the same time and within 6 months. Wow. So what is all of this? What does this mean? 19 people charged. All of these prominent people, RICO, racketeering. It's just too much. Attorney Darrell Jones, chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition. I cannot wait to get your thoughts. Attorney C.K. Hoffley, you brought this gentleman to us. Keith Lamar, Attorney Keith Lamar, former prosecutor who, as you shared with me, worked with Fani Willis, right? And he's the former head of the Black Prosecutors Association. You brought him to us in about 30 seconds. Can you introduce him to us? Reintroduce him because he was just here a couple of weeks ago.
Well, certainly. For one, I have the pleasure of introducing Keith Lamar. He's one of my partners in our newly found NIL practice. So I know him well as a lawyer. He's an exceptional lawyer. What's really critical here, you said it, Santita, that he's a former prosecutor. So he sits in the shoes that Fani sits in, trained under Fani, knows Fani, and he's just an excellent lawyer who's in a position to analyze and dissect for us what this means. I will say this. If there are convictions, yes, you said a mandatory 5-year sentence, if they don't prevail on appeal. But what's most important is Georgia is one of 2 states that does not allow gubernatorial pardons. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is a state court. So there will be no presidential pardons, and there cannot be by law any gubernatorial pardon. So that means if convicted and if it sticks, they're going to jail. All 19 of them, or however many of them, are convicted if it survives this law.
To prison.
That's very important.
To prison.
They're going to prison.
To prison. To
for
prison.
5 years. Not for 5 years.
Well, let's get to Keith Lamar. Let's get to it because we want to know. I mean, these are federal charges. These are not federal charges. These are state charges. I mean, which goes to CK's point. This is really, really big. I mean, she's swinging for the fences here. What's going on?
Yes. And she tried. And let me just say one thing before blaming on Chief. RICO charges. Remember, R. Kelly was prosecuted on RICO charges in New York. These are RICO charges, and Georgia has one of the most favorable from a plaintiff standpoint. Favorable from the state standpoint. RICO statutes in the country.
Well, let me start with this question then. She did know what she was doing. So why did she go for RICO charges? What are they? I mean, and it's very interesting because Donald Trump was trained by the ultimate mafia lawyer, Roy Cohn. He was his mentor. So talk to us. RICO charges and state charges as opposed to federal charges. Take it away.
All right. Well, good morning, and thank you again for having me on the show, and thank you again, CK, for the introduction. I definitely appreciate it. Well, when I look at what happened here in the last few hours, first of all, this is historic for our country to see this. I'm not really sure how Donald Trump continues to move forward. This is not happening, kind of narcissistic in behavior, but this is very big and very troubling. Funny, basically what one guy said on the news earlier was that basically she threw the whole book out. He said, you know what? We're not going to play around with you. We're going to get everybody involved with the RICO, 18 other co-defendants, and everybody's going to be in charge. And so with that being said, that means that some of these people do not want to go to jail. They're not Donald Trump. They did not have pockets that fit deep as the ocean, and they're going to end up talking, and that's going to end up hurting Donald Trump. So I think that's one reason why we have so many people actually on the indictment. And besides that, it's pretty clear on his face what he was trying to do. So when you have a group of people to get together and conspire to try to do something, what they were doing was essentially try to overturn the election, not because there was actual real miscalculations or inaccurate counting, but they knew the actual facts. And it's pretty clear on his face from what they presented so far that they knew it, did not care about the rule, and just tried to incite unrest in our community, essentially.
Okay. RICO, what does that mean? I mean, why did she go for RICO charges? I mean, because that's what they use that for, the mafia, for street gangs. That's what you hear when you hear RICO. At least that's what it conjures up for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's typically what is, known for. But at the end of the day, I think they use it a lot in Fulton County. We had a teacher scandal about a decade ago. Currently on trial right now, a rapper by the name of Young Thug, Jeffrey Williams. So he's very familiar with the RICO. And as far as the RICO goes, once you get enough conspirators to act, you should be able to prove it. As CK said earlier, Georgia's a very friendly state. So if you decide you want to get a group of people together and commit some crime, shouldn't do it in Georgia because you might get hit with the RICO pretty quickly.
So, I mean, what is a racketeering charge? What exactly has he been charged with? Have he and his cohorts been charged with?
Okay, so essentially what they've been charged with is conspiring to get together to basically overturn an election illegally. What she's saying and what they're alleging, what the state is alleging, is that Donald Trump and his attorneys, his people that was working with him, the different co-defendants, they already knew the actual truth, but they had a wanton disregard for that truth. It was already proven that there was no inaccuracy, there was nobody cheating. He's decided to go above and beyond to cause unrest and to try to manipulate and change voters' minds and change actually the whole system. People lose faith in the actual system of voting here in America. So that's why she hit them with the RICO, because they did a lot more than just a simple phone call to the Secretary of State. They did a lot more to actually change out the voters. They went to some rural counties. That's why she mentioned in her actual statement that not just for the county, but elsewhere being those other smaller towns in Georgia. And he decided to try to come in with force and intimidation tactics. These are people that are just working. Some are volunteers that work at these places, and he's threatening them with force. And he's threatening them with, you're trying to use this power to make them do his will. So when you do things like that, that's illegal. You can't do that. And the reason you have to go against with the RICO charge is to bring it all together so that it makes sense for a jury. Because at the end of the day, how do all these people work? Why are they all in here? It's almost like a ball and chain effect. Everybody must work together for this actually to work. So Donald Trump can't do it by himself. He needed those co-conspirators in order to make it work. And that's why we fall into the RICO.
No, it's very interesting that, typically when we hear conspiracy, that makes you a nut, but in the legal circles, it makes you guilty, right?
Oh yeah. Two or more people coming together to try to do something that's illegal. You're already conspiring, and this is the attempt. So I know a lot of people had the question of, well, he didn't win, so what does that mean? But it's not about actually completing the crime. The attempt alone can get you the RICO charge, attempting to do the crime.
So call us at 773-763-9278. Do you think he is going to jail? Do you think that he will be convicted? These are 161 acts of illegal racketeering. 161. It took 2.5 years to investigate and pull together this case. Wow. And this happened, like the second day she was in office, Attorney Lamar?
Oh, yeah, it did. It happened as soon as he swore in, and as soon as that happened, here he comes, Donald Trump again, doing what he does. So, she got right to work. He had no time to sit down and, enjoy being elected. She had to get right to work.
Well, take us behind the veil. Who is she, aside from being a Howardite, which makes her great? Thank you.
No problem. Well, I've known Madam D.A. Funny Willis for a long time now. She's actually a very good person as far as straight to the heart. To tell you what's on her mind. She doesn't really play a lot of politics. That's never been her thing. She's been an excellent trial attorney from the get-go. One thing that she's always prided herself on is working harder than the next person. And I think that's why she is where she is today. Because when it comes down to it, when I used to work there, she'd be one of the first people in the office and one of the last people to leave as well. And she has a very high conviction rate, one of the best trial attorneys I've ever seen do it. And she's trained over 100 trial attorneys out here now. She's actually trained some judges that are trial attorneys that are now judges. So Fonnie is one of those people that, she just works hard, believes in what she's doing. But at the end of the day, she's a regular average person that's trying to enhance her community. That's all she's trying to do.
Now, isn't her conviction rate like near 90%?
Yeah, it's something crazy like that. I mean, like when I tell you, when she goes into that courtroom, when she puts on that hat, it's going to be hard to defeat her. Very smart, brilliant with it, great craftsmanship with her, with the words. And at the end of the day, I wouldn't want to go against her.
So how do you see this playing out? I mean, 6 months, she said she wants to try everybody at the same time. What would that look like? Is that possible?
That's very, I know, that's what I'm wondering, is that possible? That's a very, I love that she wants to do that. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, though. And the reason I say that isn't because of her, but because of defense attorneys. First of all, when you have a case with this many defendants, to get all the attorneys on the same board, to have everybody agree, that's not an easy thing to do. It's hard enough to do it when you have 2 defendants, but when you have 8, actually 19, including Mr. Trump, that's kind of tough. So you're going to have a lot of different attorneys in there filing different motions, trying to continue it, trying to wait till after the election potentially. So I know what she wants to do, but it's easier said than done. It's really going to depend on how it all falls down with the attorneys agreeing, defense attorneys agreeing to be tried together. I'm sure some of them do not want to be tried with President Trump. So we're going to have a lot of motions in the next few months.
Do you see, given your experience as a prosecutor, I mean, everybody is not accustomed to staring down this legal system, which a former President Trump clearly is. He's ready to do it, not just financially, but mentally he's in that space. Do you see with this group of 19, some people peeling off and cutting deals? Do you think that's why it's done that way?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes, I definitely see that happening. That's pretty standard, actually. I used to tell people all the time, if you're going to do a crime, you shouldn't do it with somebody else, because more than likely, when those numbers start coming out, somebody's going to tell on you. And just for lack of better words, everybody snitches. All right. I know a lot of people out here and they say, oh, no, they won't. Yes, they do. Okay. When you're talking about going to jail for 20 years and, 25 years and 30 years, that changes some things, especially for somebody that's never been in the criminal justice system before. So I'm pretty sure once they get locked up and they see how that jail looks and how Rice Street looks, that's what they call the Fulton County Jail, Rice Street. Once they get a taste of that, they're probably going to change up their tune, especially those people that weren't really on a high level. I can see them immediately, talking and spilling their goods.
Folding. What should we as laypersons be looking out for, Attorney Lamar?
I think the main thing you got to look out for is just, some more intimidation factors for Donald Trump. He's already starting with his comments over the media, talking bad about people, deception. I hope that people please do not get deceived by anything that he throws out. He might throw out this and that, but that is all just a smoke screen. So please do not fall for that. But it's going to happen a lot. And that's the whole point of the defense attorney, to try to bring some kind of doubt into the state's case. So the main thing that they're trying to do is say that they don't have enough evidence to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And so he's going to throw out all kinds of things that probably won't be true, just going off this history. But you got to watch out for that. And as far as those other witnesses or other defendants, I think within the next few months, you'll start seeing some of the lower ends, the ones that they don't have much evidence on, probably cutting deals and probably deals to testify against them. So you'll start seeing a bigger list of people that are going to testify against the former president.
The former president of the Black Prosecutors, America's Black Prosecutors, Keith Lamar, with us this morning. Attorney C.K. Hoffler, I've got you, and Dwight McKee is listening because I know he wants to take all of this in. And of course, you, Attorney Daryl Jones. Attorney C.K. Hoffler, I mean, you're going to be on Court TV. Doubtless you'll be talking about this. I mean, what?
No, I probably won't be talking about this unless, once if the case, but if the case progresses, there might be some hearings and I might do legal commentary on those for sure. But
so what are we looking at here? Just what are we looking at?
What we are looking at now, they're going to try to remove this case to federal court. Bonnie Willis, the district attorney, was very clever, and her team very clever in drafting this so that the case would stay in state court. The reason why they would want to have this case removed to federal court, there are a lot of legal grounds for removal. We saw in the New York State case, the same tactic was used, but actually, quite frankly, it's not an original tactic. It's always done. So, because why? If this case is in federal court, you have a different type of bench in federal court. Remember, we are in Georgia, so we are in a very, very conservative circuit, and it becomes a federal case. It becomes a federal case. It becomes a case where there could be a presidential pardon if it's a federal case. This is not a federal case. It's a state case. So they will seek to do that. So we should expect a lot of legal maneuvering, a lot of different efforts on behalf of all of these defendants to, as Keith Lamar said, get out of the case. And I believe some of them will turn evidence on the case. We do have two of these defendants, by the way, are African American. So one Black woman and one Black male. So I think that, and I'm not saying that they will turn evidence, I'm just pointing out that you've got a lot of people that are tangentially involved that are in and that had a significant role and were in that indictment. Their actions, if we believe what's in the indictment, if we believe all of this criminal enterprise was executed and planned to perfection, which is what I've always said, and we talked about on the show, happened. We didn't get to January 6th. We didn't get to some of these things just by happenstance. There was a well-orchestrated, well-planned set of events. And so it does feel and smell like RICO. I want to commend people's attention. R. Kelly was prosecuted and convicted under a New York RICO statute. Do not be surprised by this.
It's just interesting, the slide rule that we're living on. If you dissent from the status quo's opinion, you're called a conspiracy theorist. But in the legal system, you are a conspiracist and you go to jail. It's just kind of strange to me. I just thought I'd bring that up. Call us at 773-763-9278. What do you think is going to happen? And how will this impact election 2024? Indeed, former President Trump said, look, you guys, all I need is one more indictment. And this was it. He got it. He said, one more indictment, we will wrap up this election. Do you think that's what's going to happen? Will his numbers rise? Will the candidates who are running against him or who are running for the nominations, I don't think they're running against him. I think they're too frightened to. What do you think is going to happen with them? How are they going to handle this? And we're coming on the debate. Will they even mention it? How will they deal with it? Will they deal with him the way he dealt with other candidates when he first ran? Call me at 773-763-9278. Meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. And coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Back in just a minute. boy, oh boy, oh boy. Now, Keith, how long can you stay with us?
I can stay to about 8:30 if it can need me that
Oh,
long.
no, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. I just think it's important. Dwight, you want to say anything? We're on our break, but we're on Facebook and YouTube and everything else. And so people are listening.
What's going on, Mr. Dwight?
How you doing, Doc? No, I'll wait and just listen to what everybody got to say.
Okay, well, I can't wait to hear what you've got to say, my little conspiracy theorist. That's right, CK. I can see when conspiracies are not a bad thing, which is interesting.
Well, but one thing
a lot of conspiracy going to be happening the next year.
Right. This is going to be his campaign platform. This is going to be how he was already the front runner, but he's definitely going to be the front runner. Now, the only candidate that will dare say anything, I believe, is Governor Christie. He will say something because he's not been afraid. He knows that will not enhance his numbers at this point. But if Chris Christie takes this to the logical conclusion, and really if he has a platform, if there's a debate, I think ultimately we could potentially see some traction. But for now
he's a former prosecutor, right? It's important for us to remember that. That's right. A bulldog at that.
And so he could take it. He could take it, and he could really speak some truth about this. And so I think Chris Christie, of all of the candidates, actually is the only one who will raise and discuss this. The rest won't, because they'll be too afraid. I think this is going to continue to galvanize the base because they believe what Donald Trump.
Hi, Ms. Jackson.
Won. But it is going to have it.
We have Attorney Mathis ready to go.
He says something, and of course, long term, as the process continues with this Fulton County case. This case is different from the other cases. The two New York cases are different because this case exposes, when you talk about RICO allows them to get into all of this information that they would not have had the benefit of getting into if they just had straight counts that didn't involve RICO, because you have to show conspiracy. So you're showing everybody in the chain what they did. You can paint a picture, a very broad picture, but yet a specific picture. You can bring in what they did to those election workers. So it's not just about that phone call. The phone call was the trigger, but all the other stuff that they did in Fulton County to dismantle the system, to dismantle democracy in Fulton County and that county that she represents, this one county with this kind of a case in Georgia can potentially unravel, in many respects, the political base of the Republican Party. Without a question, this one county, this one prosecutor. That's why it is so important to vote. It is so important to vote. And it's so important to know who you are electing, because the citizens of Fulton County elected Fani Willis to do what she is doing, to prosecute. It's not popular. She's not there to win a popularity contest. She's there to do her job, and that's what she's doing, because the citizens of Fulton County elected her to do that. And she really won by a resounding amount of votes. So she got the support of the people who really only count for her, despite the fact that the Georgia legislature recently passed legislation designed to clip her wings. But guess what? It's going to be too late in terms of this case, in terms of clipping of the wings, because it's already done. So I think that this is a case to watch.
Okay, CK, you went out.
I don't know, the DC case. The DC case will probably progress quickly too, because that judge in the District of Columbia case is not playing around either.
Well, do you think he'll be jailed because he is violating her stipulations that he not speak about the case? I mean, it seems like he's almost daring her, right?
Right, I do. And I do think that she will do it. She is the wrong judge to play with. I'm not certain who's advising him. I'm not certain what, but I think he wants to be jailed because he wants that. If he's doing it, it's because he knows she's not the judge to play. And she will put him in.
But
so
the thing is, but while I think all of this is true, and I'm I'm on Team Fonnie, okay? And Judge Chutkan, everybody. The thing is, you're dealing with a dangerous guy because he's someone who is unafraid. Chris Christopherson wrote in his song, Me and Bobby McGee, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. And when you're dealing with someone who has nothing left to lose, ooh-wee. See, because we're not, because most of us are afraid of death, we're afraid of jail, he ain't afraid of none of that.
90 seconds.
Well, he does have, but Santita, I disagree slightly, but he does have something to lose.
He does.
But the people who are not afraid are Fonnie Willis and Judge Chapman. They are not afraid to do what they've been elected to do, what they've been appointed to do, what they have been assigned to do. That's who he needs to be concerned about because they are not afraid.
Oh, I get it. I think it'll be a battle of the Titans, so it'll be interesting. It's just like with the Alabama brawl, people can surprise you, you know.
Certainly.
You know, so I'm just saying, you know, I think it's important to understand all of the combatants in this struggle, and so that we can, you know, I mean, that's why, you know, I kind of stepped back from things. I kind of, you know, I was kind of raised under Dwight and who was raised under my parents. And you know Reverend quite well, and he takes emotion out of a fight because he's like, no, you're disadvantaged when you get emotional about these things. Don't do that. Examine the situation. Be scientific about it. He'll always tell you be scientific.
30 seconds.
Okay, coming in. We're at 20 seconds, everybody.
And then to the last thing, this is not a great day for America. Don't get me wrong. This is not a great day for us, but it is what it is, and what former President Trump allegedly did was not a great day for America either.
I think, you know what? I think it is a great day because it's an honest day. I think we can finally begin to get some things right. You know, this thing ain't been clean. So let's clean it up. Put it out there.
We can change the world.
Hold on, we'll talk about it.
Change the world. We can change the world. We can change the world. Change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
And hate to a place of love. It's not too late. Gotta save the children. We can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, Tuesday, August 15th, 2023, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want to know what your thoughts are today. Meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Miss Yvonne, I'm so glad that you got back home to the Adirondacks safely. And having been in Chicago with us during the Rainbow Push Convention, we had a great time with you, Yvonne. Love you, girl. Donnie D, Robert, Dave Dowling. There was just, let's join everybody over there. And I want to hear from you at 773-763-9278. What about the Trump indictments? Boy, oh boy. He said, all I need is that fourth indictment. Once I get the fourth indictment, I'll have this election wrapped up. He said, anytime they file indictments against me, we go way up in the polls. I quote, we need one more indictment to close out this election. One more indictment, he said. And this election is closed out. What do you think? Call me at 773-763-9278. They say when you strike a woman, you strike a rock. A rock is Fonnie Willis. She is tough. She's the prosecutor's prosecutor. And she has come up with, quite frankly, a brilliant strategy. And 19 people, somebody, in all likelihood is going to flip. It's going to be very interesting. But now you've got 4 cases that President Trump is looking at: the January 6th insurrection case, the classified documents case, the Georgia election interference case, and the hush money case. He's got to deal with all these trials while he's running for president. This is going to be interesting, everybody. Let's get to some of these headlines. The death toll from the Maui wildfires has risen to 99. More than 1,000 people are missing, everybody. Searchers will probably find, they estimate, 10 to 20 victims a day for the next 10 days. Hawaii Governor Josh Green said yesterday. Few victims have been identified. Family members have been asked for DNA, everybody. Praying for the people of the middle class and the working class people of that island. Indeed, they were fighting to hold on to that land. They've been fighting corporations and the wealthy on that island so that they could hold on to their land. And now many people are saying, well, now it's gone. Wow, everybody. Federal guidelines show how colleges can still address race in admissions. What to know? Colleges may still consider race in personal statements, recommendation letters, data collection, and recruitment efforts, according to the Biden administration. But the story of the day is former President Trump was charged in a 2020 election investigation in Georgia. The former president and 18 others, including America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani and his former chief of staff, Mark Meadows, were indicted yesterday in connection with efforts to overturn Joe Biden's victory in the state in 2020, everybody. Former President Trump faces 13 counts, including violating Georgia's Racketeering Act. It follows a 2.5-year investigation by Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis. In Chicago, we're going to have high of 72 degrees today. It's going to be a little cool, and it will be showers, but it's going to be a beautiful day, although it will be overcast. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 80 degrees and clear. Who's going to win the Women's Cup in soccer? We don't know, but we do know it's down to the Final Four. Spain, Sweden, they're facing off right now. Australia and England. We'll see on Sunday. That's when you have the final. In Major League Baseball, we have our crosstown series here in Chicago. The White Sox will be facing off against the Cubs over in Wrigley Field at 7 o'clock tonight. And the Tigers will be facing off against the Twins. The WNBA, our Lynx, and the Sky have the time off. And those are some of the headlines. Everybody, we've been looking for economic freedom. And we want you to be a homeowner. It's possible, everybody. It's possible. If you want to raise your credit score, Team Hochberg's got a credit card for you. You should call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID. But also, if you've not been a home buyer over the past 3 years, there's an opportunity that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are offering you, everybody. If you've not owned a home over the past 3 years, you need to call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID, or go to 56david.com and look at the site and find out what the program is. Home buyers, first-time home buyers, have been declining in numbers over the past few years. Last year was down to 26%. That's alarming to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, because the cornerstone of Americans' wealth is home ownership. It has been that way since the beginning. When European immigrants were brought to the United States, or when they came here, when way was made for them, they were given land. They were able to own their homes. Indeed, blacks were promised in the post-slavery period 40 acres and a mule. Did we get it? No, but that was the promise. Home ownership is everything. Land ownership is everything. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac want to help you to own your piece of the American rock. They want to incentivize first-time home buyers with substantially lower rates. If you are living in the Chicago area and the total income of your home is below $105,700, and you have not owned a home within the past 3 years, call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, and see if you qualify for this program. Now, the rates can change at any time, so you need to call right away, everybody. You need to call right away. This special offer can expire at any time. But if you want to build multi-generational wealth, and you really should, because if you own a home, more than likely your children will, and their children will, and so on and so on and so on. Call Team Hochberg and get this ball rolling at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or visit them at 56david.com. But if you have any issues with your home, if you're trying to avoid foreclosure, if you're trying to work out your credit, they can help you. 855-56-DAVID. All right, everybody, we have got to talk about this indictment. We've been talking with the former head of the Black American Prosecutors Association. We're so excited to have you, Keith Lamar. And of course, you were brought to us by the former president of the National Bar Association, the largest and oldest Black bar association in the world. She's also chair of Rainbow Push, but you see her as an analyst on Court TV. She has her own show on WAOK today at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 10 o'clock our time. You don't want to miss it. I know you're going to be talking about this today. And Attorney Daryl Jones, I know you all will be talking about this on WOL today at 12 noon. So let's get right to it, because I know we're being joined by the executive director of the National Council of Negro Women, Attorney Janice Mathis. But we did not hear from you, Attorney Jones and Dwight McKee, and then I'm going to pivot to Attorney Mathis. But let me start with you, Attorney Jones. What do you make of this?
Well, Santita, this was just an incredible development. Certainly hats off to Fonnie Willis. She's just done an incredible job of bringing this, staying focused, and not getting caught up in any of the showmanship that often happens. But I tell you, if you're former President Trump, you're not sleeping well. You're not sleeping well at all. And one of the big things that I think we're going to see that's going to be developing from this is that you're going to see the ultimate test of our court system and our judicial system. I mean, that's what you're going to see. And it's going to begin at the very beginning. You know, when State's Attorney Fonnie Willis gave them the opportunity to surrender themselves by Friday at noon, that's going to be one of the beginning steps. Are all 19 going to be treated equally? Will they all be released? Will they be required to post bonds? What happens from there? What other restrictions will be imposed? I think that's going to be the beginning step, and every step along the way of this prosecution will be an opportunity for young lawyers to learn, to watch this process, because it's a case study. Now, I agree wholeheartedly as a former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney with Keith Lamar that concept of trying to try all 19 of these co-defendants at the same time. It's a defense attorney's dream because it just creates a lot of confusion, has the ability to create confusion and uncertainty and clouding and clouds is the defense attorney's world, you know, because that's where you begin to question the decisions that people are making and whether or not cases are being made clearly, and do the jurors really have a firm understanding of it all. It presents, I think, an incredible burden to be met by the state to try to have all 19 tried together. And clearly, you know, the defense side, you're going to see all kinds of maneuvering done. You know, it would not surprise me, and I heard CK speaking of the removal to the federal court. I would also anticipate them trying to remove it out of Fulton County to get it to one of the rural courts. To a judge and perhaps a jury that they think will be more favorable. So there's going to be a lot of maneuvering that goes on as this case moves along, and it is going to be an incredible case study for future generations of lawyers and everyone else in how this legal process does it treat everyone the same. That's what I anticipate seeing coming from this. You know, and I agree. Let me also say this with the analysis that I've heard with former President Trump, and I know that Joy McKee is going to, jump right on and talking about making a martyr out of the monster. But you know, a part of what I would also be concerned with here is that, you know, oftentimes when you trap a rat, the rat's going to fight back with everything it's got to save its life. Well, a lot of times people are cheering for the rat, and that's what Trump was talking about with his supporters, and picking up supporters along the way. The more he's trapped, the more he's fighting, the more people will be cheering for him. So it's going to be an interesting development to watch all of this come along, Santita.
Well, because, you know, candidates are a Rorschach test. I mean, he is getting almost 20% of the black male vote. And it's sometimes it's not about policy. It's about the fact that they see him as someone who's fighting the power. I mean, that's not what I'm just saying. You know, you have to understand that all of these things are at play here. All of these things are at play here as we're watching this all play out. Before we go to you, Dwight, because you know it's always interesting to have you. I want to hear these legal opinions. Attorney Janice Mathis, what say you?
Well, first of all, good morning, Santita. Thank you for having me on. It's good to hear CK and Attorney Jones. I agree with everything that they've said. I think that there is something about Mr. Trump that is contemptuous of the court, every court that he's been indicted in. And I think he is enjoying the trap rat syndrome that Attorney Jones identified. He wants his followers to see him as the leader. What does he say? I'm like Christ. I'm here to save you. They're coming after me so they won't come after you. This grandiose vision of himself plays right into who he thinks he is. So that is a concern. And we will certainly see motions to remove, motions to sever. Some of those 19 will not want to be tried with Mr. Trump. There'll be, and I would not put it past the Georgia legislature. There's been some talk about a pardon. If Trump is convicted and then he becomes president, he would prevail upon the Georgia governor to pardon him. Under Thoro's law, the Georgia governor can't pardon him until he serves his sentence. And this RICO statute has a mandatory minimum imprisonment time. And then you have to do 5 years after that before you can apply to the State Board of Pardons and Parole for a pardon. But I would not put it past the supermajority of the GOP in the Georgia legislature when they convene in January to bring forward legislation that would change the powers of the Georgia governor to pardon. So that's something to be on the lookout for. I am also
I hadn't thought
concerned
about that angle, Janice, that they can
Well,
change
I
that
spent a
law.
lot of time in the I spent a lot of time in the Georgia legislature before I came to Washington. And I need to make a minor correction, Santita. I'm no longer executive director. I'm now general counsel to NCNW for the past couple of months.
I love that.
And
Excuse me.
I'm concerned that the length of time it's going to take to prosecute Bonnie's case is going to run right smack dab into the politics of the election. And that is the issue.
Why?
But I think she chose the right. Well, we've never had a sitting president on trial. I mean, a candidate for president on trial on election day. And I don't think it's clear how that will play with the vote. Some will be sympathetic. Others will be jubilant. I have, frankly, a little bit more confidence that the D.C. case will yield better results in terms of holding Trump accountable just because of the timing of it. There's a rap case, but I think the RICO statute is the right statute. If there was ever a racketeering and corruptly influenced plan, I mean, this outranks the plot to assassinate Lincoln and behead and decapitate the United States government in 1865. It wasn't just Lincoln that was the target of that attack. It was the entire cabinet, including Lincoln. And this prosecution brings forward the point that these folks sat around and plotted and planned a multi-state operation to defraud the people out of their vote and the consequences of their vote. So there's a lot to watch. And I guess Funny is a woman of her word. She is courageous. I pray for that sister's health each and every day because there are fools in Georgia and other places. Now, the other thing is, if the case can stay in Fulton County, there's probably no better county, especially in the South, to try him because you got politically savvy, lots of black folks. I know there's some hotel men who want to be in Mr. Trump's crowd because they think raping women is a good thing. But I think you'll get a good, fair, and true jury and a good verdict in Fulton County. Not real optimistic that it'll stay in Fulton County, but we shall see. We shall see.
Dwight McKee, you've heard a lot. What say you?
Yeah, I did. It was very interesting to listen to the panel today. First, I think that is overreach. Is that you trying to turn the Keystone Cops into the mafia? That's going to be a very difficult case to try. You have all of these plaintiffs, many of whom are lawyers and who understand themselves the law, and you have to convince a jury that somehow they, being lawyers, conspired not to pursue the law, but to pursue overturning the law. And that's going to be, I think, a very difficult case to prove. I think before they flip, I think the jury's going to flip. You have to run the risk of the jury flipping on you because you're going to have really a ball of confusion. 19, 18, 17 of these plaintiffs, many of themselves going to have their own lawyers filing their own petitions. It's going to be chaos and very hard for the jury to follow. I think one way or another, what you'll end up with is the end of democracy in the country because it's a no-win for anybody. It's going to make him a martyr. He's right, it probably will give him the election the same time you have in the Hunter Biden case, which is going to be more focused upon and more grievous by comparison. as they look into that case and discover that this really was a case of selling out, the country for personal benefit and for political influence.
You really think that
it's gonna be
that's
very
what they're
difficult.
going to find in that case?
Oh, absolutely, no doubt about it. They're moving now toward direct impeachment. And if they don't impeach him, just as the information flows out, and it's going to begin to flow out, and just the deals they tried to cut on his side to give him impunity compared to how much of this other situation on Trump's side is imposed and manufactured is going to create a constitutional crisis and a political crisis in the country. What the risk you run is that if they lose the case and he becomes the president, then vengeance is his, says Trump. And he's going to go after the opposition with a passion.
What does that
On the
mean?
other side,
What would that look like?
it means there's going to be hell to pay when he becomes a president, because he is going to decapitate anybody who went against him, as it looks as if they're trying to decapitate the opposition for Biden on their side. And so he'll be able to justify his pursuit, quote unquote, of justice, because it looks as if it is a reap what you sow situation. That they went after him, as he says, now it gives him the right to go after them. But if he loses and he does go to jail and he becomes the president and he's in jail, it creates another crisis, because now all of the Republican opposition, particularly the military side of it, now see this is a counter coup. And now they become a militia and guerrilla warfare. And they see this now as a banana republic, and they have to save the remnants of democracy that's left. So one way or another, it's going to be a mess. Now, I'm the same one that said that he would lose, but he would not leave, when nobody believed that. So I'm not, pro-Trump or pro-Biden or anti-Trump or anti-Biden. Again, I'm just telling you how this thing will play out.
As a social scientist. Hold that thought, because I only have because I only have about 2 minutes left in this segment. And Attorney Lamar is going to have to leave us. And I don't want him to leave us without at least commenting on what you said and what he's been hearing, because he worked for Fani Willis. She trained him as a prosecutor. Whew. Talk to me.
Well, I do understand what he's saying, but the thing is, you can't walk in fear out here. You have to be brave and courageous. And unfortunately, she didn't create this situation; he created it, and the timing of it was all based off his action. So, Bonnie can't do anything about that. The timing, I understand why people say, "Dang, it's the timing," but Donald Trump knew what he was doing. That's why he decided to do this particular action at the time he did. He's already trying to set up a reason why he's not guilty. But at the end of the day, I think that people actually decide to use their common sense and look at it from a view of, hey, we're not going to just pick a side blindly and just go with this blindly, but actually open up and look at the facts, look at what's really going on, look at what's really being alleged and the impact it had on our government, the impact it had just on our country and people not believing one another and people not believing, having faith in our government. The country will fall if that continues. You can't keep that same pathway up. That's what happened to Rome, and I don't want to be a part of that. So let me tell you right now, I think that this is very courageous of her to actually attempt to do this. Trust me, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of other things he would love to be doing besides going after Donald Trump. But Donald Trump has made it where he's got to go after him, or he's going to keep going. He doesn't have an off switch, and he doesn't know what people say. He doesn't know how to chill, right? He does not know how to chill. And at this point, he's been pushed it over the edge. He's a line stepper, so he's always stepping over the line. And if we don't come down and say something, all we're going to do is fester and make a bigger problem. So you got to put something put a line in the sand now and say, hey, this can't be, this can't happen anymore. And if you want to have a productive country, you can't, just raise lies just because. And I think that goes on both ends. Republicans and Democrats, doesn't matter. Don't go out here yelling fire when you know there's no fire and you have the whole country looking at you for your position as president. And everybody's jumping off the boat, but there's no fire. So, you should be held accountable for it.
But you have to prove that you didn't think it was a fire. You have to prove that he didn't think it was a fire.
15 seconds.
That's where the breakdown. That's where the breakdown is, because it's based on the conspiracy is based on intentionality. And if he really believed in his self-deception, he probably did, that he had won. It's going to be very difficult case to prove.
Well, stay right here, everybody. 773-763-WCPT. What do you think? There are a lot of thoughts out here, like concentric circles, everybody. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. Sending you so much love, former president of the Black Prosecutors Association, Keith Lamar. I'm so glad you've been here to break this down for us today. Sending you so much love. Back with the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Well, Dwight, Keith, do you want to?
Yeah, I appreciate y'all. He's right. It's going to be a hard case. It's not going to be easy by any means.
Okay, why isn't it going to be easy?
Because it's a situation like you just said. There's going to always be those people that's going to go anti. So if you tell somebody the light is green, you can go, but there's going to always be somebody saying, well, wait a minute. And if the light will turn yellow and red, they'll be like, well, I thought you said it was green. So it's always going to be that person that doesn't just go with the flow. And I think that's what the legal system is about. That's why, you have to be a skilled attorney in order to convince 12 people that don't know you that this is what it is. So it takes a lot of skill. And it's going to be tough. So no case is open and shut. Even when you have recordings and phone calls of President Trump doing this, it's still, you got to show it to me. People are here, you look at the January 6th situation, it's pretty clear what it was said. He kept saying, stand by, go after there. He made little subtle signs. And if you don't realize that being the president of the most powerful country in the world, when you speak, people might actually do something, then you live under a rock. You got to know that you have a lot of power. So if I'm over here and I'm the president of the United States and I tell everybody to do this, and then let's say, I have very clear people telling me, hey, President Keith, you cannot do this. Hey, you've already lost. This is the vote. This is where we counted it. I'm sorry, you lost. Even though I might believe whatever I want to believe, it's unconscionable. It's ridiculous. It's like, okay, you're going to keep saying you believe this, but I've told you before, here's the count. So please stop raising all this conspiracy in order just to cause chaos. Because that's basically what he's doing. He's trying to cause chaos to get to a greater goal. Who knows what that goal may be for him, but that's what he's doing.
Well, you know what? I think, this is where we have to understand the culture of power, because no one wants to tell the king that he is not wearing any clothes. Right. Yeah. I mean, no, really, that becomes the problem. And everybody's jockeying to get close to the king or the queen. And they will lie.
That goes when they're going to turn on him.
Yeah. That's part of it too. I'm not making excuses. I just,
very accurate.
2 minutes. Also, we have David Swain on the line.
Okay.
There were people that told him he had no clothes on.
Yeah, but he didn't.
Not only you had no clothes on, you had no shoes.
But you know what?
No socks.
The power,
right? You need to get your hair done.
But the powerful men and women don't want to listen to the person. That's why.
Correct.
That's why the spouse is so important, and a sane spouse. Because my mama's one, and she will say, "Hey, don't do that." And you have all these people around, Reverend, who say, "Oh, Reverend, just go on." My mother's like, "Don't let these people make a fool of you." And thank God he has had her for 62 years, because people, for their own purposes, because for their own purposes, CK, you know this better than anybody, for their own purposes, and so do you, Dwight, because you've been around this, people for their own purposes. and you too, Janice.
Give you another example.
Janice has known Dad
Let me give you
he was a kid.
Let me give you another example. Raffensperger and Kemp have live political ambition in Georgia. They are not going to let some mega millionaire from New York come and rob them of their political glory.
Oh, no, there's that.
He has made enemies. White men,
30 seconds.
Stand by.
Have this honor code.
And we've got David Swain my sweetie down there in Oklahoma, a bona fide, brilliant freedom fighter who is a white man who can help us to understand just, I mean, what the feeling is, what the sentiment is in that part of the country. Because when my mother drove from DC down to South Carolina, through Virginia and North Carolina, she said, this Trump thing is real, y'all. I just want you to know people love him. We don't see it in Chicago. We don't see it in the urban world. But when you get out of here, that's why, Keith Lamar said this is not going to be easy.
Change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
So many diverse opinions and thoughts here on the Santita Jackson Show, but that's the way I like it. Because I want us to hear from different people and get different perspectives, because it really helps to inform what we're looking at. Everybody who disagrees with you ain't crazy. They just disagree with you. They have a different worldview. They're processing information through their body of experiences. And that's what we have to understand and appreciate about each other. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Meet my morning stars over on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. And boy, Dwight, I'm going to have you speak to Otha and Larnell, because they think that you are a trumper. A trumper. Before we get to David Slane, brilliant civil rights lawyer and brilliant attorney out of Oklahoma, one of our dearest friends and closest allies, to find out, how this landed in the middle of America, kind of sort of in the South. But before we get to you, Attorney David Slane, Dwight McKee, why don't you speak to Osa and Larnell and a body of people who feel that you are pro-Trump because you're not, because you just, you stepped back and you're not, slamming him?
I am pro-Trump like Fauci was pro-virus. I mean, just because you declare that the virus will kill people don't make you pro-virus. It makes you a doctor. And all I do is tell you what I see as a social scientist. And that's why I said I'm not the cloud. I'm the weatherman. I ain't making it rain. I'm just telling you to bring an umbrella, because this is how it's going to play out. When I said that Trump will lose, but he won't leave, and they need to start talking to the military now, because there's going to be a showdown in Washington in 6 months. Everybody thought I was pro-Biden and pro-Democrat. And I was simply saying, this is where this is going to play out. All I'm saying now is this is how it's going to play out. It's going to be a very difficult case to prove. It's not R. Kelly. You're trying to turn the Keystone Cops into the mafia. That's going to be very, very, very hard to do. When you're looking at seasoned legal lawyers, white men who have gone through years of litigation, being on trial, if you think they don't know how to defend themselves and how to flip this case, then you don't understand how the judicial system has worked all of these years. And if you think that the jury is not going to be affected, now the good attorney said that we shouldn't walk in fear. That's easy to say to somebody who is not under assault. But this jury have to go home to their peers. And if it's seen that they put Trump in jail illicitly, they're going to have a difficult life to live. Mike Tyson said everybody got a plan. They get hit in the mouth. And that plan gets adjusted. And these people are going to feel themselves in a televised session under scrutiny to have to make a decision that is good for, quote unquote, the country and their community. And they got to live, many of them have to live with some of these, quote unquote, rednecks. I hate to use that term. And live with some of these racist people and go to school and go to work and go to church with them, and somehow have to explain why they put this hero of the masses in jail When all is said and done, he's still leading in the polls. So there's a certain bona fide group of people that still believe in him and support him. Even with all these indictments, even with all these impeachments, that's the reality we're living in.
Attorney C.K. Hoffler, I know you're going to be on your show on WAOK shortly. And you, of course, are on at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Attorney Daryl Jones will be on WOL, everybody, WOL in D.C. at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time today as well. About 90 seconds before we go to you, Attorney David Slane, your closing thoughts.
Santita, I have to say we have to watch what's happening in Georgia very carefully and lift up in prayer everybody that is involved in these indictments, whether it's New York, whether it's Letitia James, whether it's our judge in Washington, D.C., and whether it's Fonnie Willis. These are three brave, courageous African-American women. We lift everyone up in prayer. We should lift this country up in prayer. But in particular, I want to lift them up in prayer because the death threat and the threats to their person, to their family, to everyone around them is very significant. And these are women that are doing what they have been hired to do. So I ask we lift them up in prayer, watch what's happening in Georgia. I do believe, however, that the case will remain in Fulton County. I do believe that the way that this has been constructed, the way that Fonnie Willis has structured this case has been to minimize the likelihood of it being removed to federal court and minimize the likelihood of it being transferred to another county. And there's a way of pleading, there's a way of structuring your case to do that. And I think that she has done that. However, it's in the hands of a judge. So a judge can make that determination. There will be motions on top of motions filed, but I do think that ultimately it will remain in state court. It will remain in Fulton County because those are the proper venues and jurisdictions for this case based on the facts as I know them. So again, let's lift in prayer. Let's lift our democracy up in prayer because everything is being threatened right now.
Well, as it was in the beginning, so it is right now. Attorney C.K. Hoffler at 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on WAOK, everybody down in Atlanta. Just go online and you can tune in. You don't want to miss it. It's a great, great, great show. Sending you much love, Attorney C.K. Hoffler. Attorney David Slane, I'm so glad that you're joining us today. Because we have, of course, Attorney Hoffler is in Atlanta. Attorney Keith Lamar, Atlanta. He used to work for Fonnie Willis. You've got Attorney Daryl Jones, who's in Washington, D.C. You've got Attorney Janice Mathis, whom you know, and who is South Carolina, Atlanta, and Washington, D.C., and Chicago. And you've got Dwight McKee, noted social scientist, who's here in Chicago. I just like hearing how this is landing, how this story is landing all around the country, and just given your legal expertise, what do you see? And just really understanding culturally what all of this means.
Well, good morning, Santita, and it's nice to join you, especially with your group. You have to keep in mind that two things. One is I come to you with 30 years of almost 30 years of criminal defense expertise. That's what I've done. The really horrible cases. And I'm a liberal standing in the middle of the reddest of the reddest states here. I have lawyers and people who are really intelligent, smart folks, and they refuse to even watch the news about Trump. Really? They won't read the indictments. They don't want to hear it. He's their man, and they're going to stick with him. And the social scientists talking about that, human nature. I'm telling you, if the election was decided today in Oklahoma, he would be elected. Thank goodness it won't be. But my perspective.
Well, hold on.
So that's where it's landing.
But stay right there because I think it's important for us to hear that because this is the largest progressive talk radio station in the country, and I know I have listeners who are all over the political spectrum, and I love that. Why do you say that? I mean, why do you think that is so? Why do you think that? Well, I know why you're saying it because this is what you're seeing. Why do you think that's so?
Well, first, I know it's so because I see it every single day in Oklahoma. I go to the gas station. I grab a cup of coffee. I go to dinner at the steakhouse, and I'm surrounded by the reddest of the red, and they don't want to hear it. This is a Democratic Biden Justice Department attack on our president. They didn't like him in the beginning, and they defend him to the hill, Santita. And why is that? I think, and you got to remember, I'm a white man, so I'm going to give you that perspective.
Please.
I think you have this older white mentality that feels like they're under attack, and he's their guy. He's the one standing up. And it's sort of got, keep in mind, Trump says, that Letitia James and Fonnie Willis, they're racist. Can you imagine anybody more racist than Donald Trump accusing these African-American professional prosecutors of being racist?
Well,
He's
hold
the
on.
racist,
Let
but
me
he
stop
turns
you right
everything
there.
around.
Let me stop you right there. How does it land? Because I want you to help us to understand how the smoke signals that he's sending out, how they're being received on the other side of the aisle.
Oh, I think the signals are being received loud and clear. That I'm taking this because of you. I'm standing up for you. We're going to march down this street to the Capitol, and I'll be right there with you. And if you don't fight like HELL, you won't have a country. That's the way they're getting the message. And he's continuing the rhetoric. He doesn't even stop. I mean, these are serious indictments, serious charges, Santita. He doesn't even slow down.
So when you see these charges, I mean, you're in the reddest of the red states, but America's is red and blue. It's all of the above. It's a real mix. Where do you see this case landing? I mean, and you've got several cases. You got 4 of them at once. You got the January 6th case. You got the classified documents. You've got the hush money case, but you've got this Georgia election case, which is a state case at this time. I mean,
well, they once said that the wheels of justice are square. And our system moves so slow, Santita, it moves so slow that I worry about being able to really get him into the courtroom and getting a conviction before Election Day. I'm concerned about that. What do I think? If these charges were against me, I would be over in the corner, curled up with my thumb in my mouth, scared to death, because these are serious charges, but not Trump. And I think his strategy is delay, get elected as president. That's what all the commentators out there are talking about. I think his strategy is delay, become president, make it all go away. But that's where Phyllis's case in Georgia is different. I've defended RICO cases, trust me, and they're mandatory prison, meaning that he cannot be pardoned. He cannot get out of this if he's convicted of these charges, even one of them. One racketeering charge, he goes to prison. So you can bet your bottom dollar they're going to drag their feet on that as long as they can. As a matter of fact, I saw on ABC or NBC last night, they said there's a RICO case going on in that exact courthouse, and they're in their 7th or 8th month of just jury selection, Santita. And one other thing, talking about the way these trials will go down. When you have multiple defendants, that's why Jack Smith went with just one and left everybody else unindicted. There won't be 18 or 19 co-defendants in the trial because some of them are going to cut deals and go against him. So you're going to end up with 8 or 9 maybe. But I've been in the courtroom when we had these kind of cases, and I'm telling you, it looks like the United Nations. You have so many lawyers. You have so many assistants. You have so many prosecutors. You have a court staff. They choose the largest courtroom, and it takes forever. Imagine getting on the stand and testifying to one thing and then having 8 criminal defense lawyers get up and cross-examine you. It takes all day.
So then why would she put out there that she wants to try everybody at the same time on 19?
Well, I think that's her strategy, is to let the jury see the whole picture. And when you see the whole picture, whether it's pressuring the elected officials to find these counts, wink, 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 get me some votes here. Whether it's the fake elector scheme, wink, 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 we're going to submit these as the true people. Behind the scenes, we're going to be pressuring Pence to do X, Y, and Z. Then meanwhile, you've got them claiming with the world's famous mayor, Giuliani. He's over there saying that the machines don't work right, and we got dead people voting. I think she wants to give the jury the whole picture, with the belief that once the jury really sees the whole picture, they'll come down on the side of a conviction. But that's a tough thing to do because it's going to take a lot of time.
Where do you think this is? I mean, so just to be clear, how is this landing? I mean, because Dwight McKee, noted social scientist, has been taking hits because he's saying, look, y'all, this is not going to be a walk in the park. He predicted, Dwight, just to move this along, prior to the election, months before, he said, even if he loses, he's not going to leave. He's going to set up a White House, a parallel White House at Mar-a-Lago. And he's not going to leave. And we're going to spend more time talking about him for the next 4 years than we will about Biden. Oh my gosh. And if they go after him, they're going to go after his son. Oh my gosh. Nobody wanted to believe that, Attorney David Slane. But that is what is happening.
Well,
and it's hard for us when we look at this and when you hear the phone call and then you see all this evidence, it's hard to think that he might even walk away.
Yeah. Well, it is. And I think he should be held accountable. That's my personal opinion. But I think there's something to be said. You need to understand there's a whole group of people, almost half the country, voted for this man. Look at the Iowa State Fair. They love him. I despise the man. I think that he betrayed our democracy. But I also am realistic to what I see. And what I see is people around me here in a red state, they don't even want to hear it. They certainly don't want to read about it. And they dismiss it as politics. And that's the way that he's revving it up. It's politics. You know, Letitia James, up in the New York case, Santita, she goes after him for $250 million to bar him from being able to be in business for 5 years. Him and his sons can never be directors and that sort of thing. That's hitting him where it hurts. But then I see Trump go and raise hundreds of millions of dollars in donations, and he just uses the donations to pay for things. Unbelievable. I don't believe that it's legal to spend campaign contributions the way he's doing it, but I don't know if anybody's investigating.
Well, they're black rules and they're white rules. I mean, I'm just mic drop on that. I mean, and he has been someone who has gone bankrupt, who's been able to get billions of dollars in loans from the big banks. So this is not someone who's an outlier here. He's someone who's deep in the system.
Well, and just like that New York prosecutor, and keep in mind that these are not, and I appreciated the guest you had, these are really trailblazing women, African-American women that sometimes are holding the spots for the first time. And they're taking this guy on, a former president of the United States, taking him on the task. And, she's got the goods on him up in New York. He says, my business is worth $2, so I only have to pay taxes on $2. But when I go to the bank and get a loan, my company's worth $2 billion, so give me favorable treatment. He just changes the value of his business like he changes his clothes. And that's called bank fraud. And but I do think, and one more thing about this Jack Smith thing, this one federal case here where the obstruction, he's got 4 counts, the deprivation of the rights to vote. He selectively made that instead of making it like a shotgun. That's what we got, is a shotgun approach in Georgia to try to encompass everything. And I respect her for doing it. It's just going to be a tough job to do, and it's going to take time. The job of Jack Smith in that last indictment in D.C., it's a rifle. He's very focused and he's very specific. I'm going to prove the president did X, Y, and Z and get in and get out. I think that case probably has the best chance of getting to trial the quickest. And you've got a judge on that. Let me also say something. You've got an African American judge, a woman, and Judge Shugden, she's not messing around. No contact with these witnesses. You're not supposed to talk to people, and you're not going to have intimidation. Trump sends out that message: if you come after me, I'm coming after you. I don't think she's going to put up with that. I think she's going to be a no-nonsense judge. She was appointed by Barack Obama, as you know. I think she's solid. She comes from the Federal Public Defender's Office. She knows what she's doing. I think she's a competent judge, and I think she's going to hold her feet to the fire. And, she made that warning. If you go out here and start making these statements under the First Amendment, this case is going to move along faster. That's exactly what Trump doesn't want to do.
Attorney Janice Mathis, you grew up in a pretty red place yourself, South Carolina.
And I was part of that generation of guinea pigs who tested the limits of Brown versus the Board of Education. And I've come away with my own sort of perspective. And I'd be interested to hear what your guest, he's fascinating because I don't get to hear that perspective directly. I usually have to surmise what's going on between the lines. But this is what I think. In so-called flyover America, the red states, the Oklahomas, the Wyoming, places like that, the coastal elites have neglected those areas. They have become underdeveloped. The factories have moved away. Jobs have moved away. Depression is on the rise. Suicide is on the rise. Opioids are on the rise. Life expectancy for the first time in 100 years is declining in some of those places. You add to that Barack Obama and Kamala Harris and Ketanji Brown Jackson, and it looks like their world is falling apart. The one thing that they could count on being free, white, and 21 is evaporating before their eyes. They don't see a path to the future. Their children are locked in basements, getting long guns and massacring people's children in schools. And I only say all that to say it's not completely irrational. And what is the obligation of the rest of us to try to heal those wounds? I mean, first we got to admit that there is a wound. And even though we may think it's foolish or silly or crazy, it's a real wound if you're the one that's bleeding.
Amen to that. You know, I only have a couple of minutes left here for some closing thoughts, but I hope that you all can stay with me just for a few minutes afterwards so you can have lengthier closing thoughts on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, everybody. Just in about a minute, I know you will be on WOL in Washington, D.C. at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. That's 11 o'clock Central Standard Time today. Your closing thoughts, Attorney Darrell Jones?
Absolutely. This has been a great conversation, but I tell you, when we watch all of this play out, that's going to be the test of our judicial system. I mean, it's going to show, what happens when a former president comes into the state courtroom. How is it handled? How is the judge handled? How is the case handled? Does it stay in Fulton County or does it get punted someplace else? And if it gets punted to a rural county, how will that judge and that jury receive it? Those are some of the big questions that I think are going to be on display here that I'm really going to be watching very closely to see if that happens and whether or not it goes up to the federal court as opposed to staying in state court. All of those factors are going to be major determiners in how this case plays out. And America must be watching and the cameras must be on for the country to see justice play out in Georgia.
Will the cameras be on in the courtroom in Georgia?
It's my understanding that they will be.
Okay. Yeah, because that's really, really, really necessary. Attorney Janice Mathis, just under a minute.
You just have to watch and see. The wheels of justice grind slowly, but they grind exceedingly fine. I hope that we are not watching the decline of the American empire, but we may be. And how this plays out is complex. I would just encourage people to read the indictments, read the report, watch news sources that are not your favorite in order to get a more balanced view.
You need that. Dwight McKee, I've got less than a minute.
Well, I'm really glad you had the white brother on who's giving you that perspective because it sometimes you think that because it's information you don't want to hear, it's not real information, it's not real facts. And so what I'm trying to tell everybody is how this is playing through all of America, not just urban America, and that it's going to be a little deeper than we think because many of us operate emotionally and think Trump, is guilty and ought to go to jail. That's one side of the story. But there's another side of the story that sees this as a witch hunt and sees this as a decapitation of the opposition. And that's playing to some people who really they themselves don't play that. because they see themselves as a protector of American democracy, and many of them have guns and will use them.
Well, you know,
and all of that is going to come to play.
All that's real. So stay right here on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. We're going to get some closing thoughts from everybody. And I could tell you, we need to have all of these perspectives because they all matter. They all matter. They all matter. Bonnie Willis has her hands full, but you know what? She can do it. She can do it. But there's a lot going on here. There are a lot of questions that we need to ask and answer about who we are as Americans, what the American project is, what it really means, what it's been, where it really ought to go. I love everybody. God bless you. Can't wait to be with you, Lord willing, on the Santita Jackson Show. God bless. David, I am so glad you offered up your perspective today. Dwight has been getting the business on over here on being a Trumper. And he has, you know, and just so you know, we're on YouTube right now, David. So just so that you know.
Right. Well, let me say this, Santita. I want everybody to understand these aren't my opinions. I mean, I'm a liberal. I'm a Biden guy. I'm a lifelong yellow dog Democrat. Okay, I'm a good friend of Reverend Jesse Jackson. He's my brother. But I'm telling you what people think in Oklahoma, in Texas, in Arkansas. They are red as red. They refuse to read these indictments. They don't want to hear it. All they do is watch Fox News. And we have to remember, and I know your radio program just finished and your YouTube starting, and I know you want to get the sort of a closing perspective from me.
No, it doesn't. No, you can say whatever you want to say. I mean, and let me just say this. I just think it's important for everybody to be heard, because I think that if you only watch MSNBC, that's a mistake. If you only watch Fox, it's a mistake. I think if you only watch American TV, it's a mistake. I think you need to understand that there are a lot of perspectives out here. Take them in so you can at least understand how other people are thinking, right?
Yeah, and I think I get so frustrated. You know, your father, one of my dearest friends, a white lawyer in Oklahoma who's the lawyer for Black Lives Matter, folks. Mm-hmm. Understand this is my cut. This is where I'm at. But I'm telling you, I live in the reddest of the red. They refuse to see this as a legal indictments of the former president, and what they're seeing it as is they don't they don't even want to read it. They don't want to read the indictments. They don't want to watch the news. They think it's a political witch hunt because that's what Trump tells them it is, and that's their point of view, and they just don't change. And unfortunately, as a lawyer, from my perspective, if you break the law, you should be held accountable. And I understand that. And I understand. I'm drinking my coffee here. I understand.
Okay.
But I understand that as a lawyer, these prosecutors, this judge, are no nonsense. And these are really serious charges. But I said it before, sort of in a joking way, but it's kind of true, Santita. The wheels of justice are square. And it takes so long for these cases to be heard that, I mean, we may be past the election before we even get to trial. So that's the reality.
Well, then, drink. I want you to drink because I want you to. I don't want you to cough. I want you to drink. So I mean,
I got a good drink of coffee.
Okay,
yes.
I want you to get that gulp in now because I want you to be all right. So I mean, if this goes past the election, and see if he wins. Because Dwight comes up with some zingers. He said, "Why turn a martyr into a monster?" And I'm like, but you can't let people.
Why turn a monster into a martyr?
Why turn a monster into a martyr? But you can't let. Was that Rich? So, but you can't let people break the law and get away with it. But I also know that prosecutions are really persecutions. They're political in nature. That's a fact, y'all. That's a fact. You might not want to hear that, but Dr. King lived under the eye of the IRS, under investigation of them his whole public career. He died broke. I mean, when my brother was sentenced, or when he entered his plea as the congressman, The first thing they wanted was for him not to, they did not want him to ever be able to run again. And they wanted him to announce to his parents in the courtroom, to the man who has registered more voters than anyone in the history of the Republic, you will never be able to vote again. Do you understand that, Congressman Jackson? He said, yes. That was a dagger in my parents' heart.
Well,
and that's what, it's
I
designed to do. I mean, I'm not sympathizing with anyone. I'm just telling y'all, this is very political, and you're going to see this play out politically, because as this is amped up, David, guess what? You're going to see the Hunter Biden thing amped up, which was quite frankly on a low boil, on a low burn, if you will. That was part of the reason people didn't want Biden to run, because they felt this was going to be a problem. Like, we have to be honest about that, y'all. I mean, don't get upset with me. Or you can, but I'm just saying.
Well, let me say one last thing, Santita, because I am a real lawyer, and I'm headed over to court on a murder case this morning. But let me say this: the reality is, we all know that there's two different justice systems. There's a justice system for the powerful and the privileged and the rest of us. And what do? Do you convict Donald Trump and send the Secret Service in the jail cell with him? I mean, there's practical considerations of how you're going to do this. And that's assuming you even get a conviction. These are serious charges. So I guess what I want to click along with what your other guest said this morning, and I agree with her. People need to take the time to read these indictments. They need to read these charges seriously and look at what they really are. These witnesses are Republicans that worked for him. These are Republican legislators. A lieutenant governor testified. A Republican lieutenant governor in Georgia testified yesterday to this grand jury. Take a look at what the real allegations are and understand that it's serious. And it's not just, they don't like Trump. How many political elections have we had in this country? Think about this. If you think it's all politics, how come every contender in the presidential race in the last 200 and something years, how come they haven't been indicted 4 times? It's because it was politics, not legal. This is legal problems. This man tried to overthrow our democracy, and we cannot stand for it. And I'll just tell you, as a guy in the middle of a red state, I'm telling you, there's people that's ready to reelect him. And so we have to be vigilant, and we have to do what we can, because the rule of law does mean something in our democracy. I'm really worried, Santita. I'm 56 years old, and I've never been so worried about democracy in my life.
Well, just very quickly before you go, if he does not win, how do you think that would play with his supporters?
Well, he's going to claim the election is stolen again. What are you talking about? And he'll raise millions of dollars. They say they stole the election twice. He's not going to stop. He'll never stop, Santita. He will never stop. They tell him one thing in the courtroom, and he acts contrite and yes, ma'am, yes, judge, I'll follow your rules, and then walks out and holds a press conference or gets on his Truth Social that ain't so truthful anymore, and he'll issue another statement. You coming after me, I'm coming after you. I mean, whether you like former President Trump or you love him, the reality is I don't see any of this stopping him. He's going to go full steam ahead.
Attorney David Slane, I can't wait to have you back. I'm so glad you look. I know you've got a busy day today, and I just want to thank you, sending you much love, big hugs and kisses. You got to come back up to Chicago and see us sometime very soon.
I'll be up to see you, and please give my love to your father, Reverend Jesse Jackson, please, my good friend.
I will not. You call him yourself. I'll tell him that you.
All right, I'll call him when I hang up. I got his number.
Call
Thank
him
you,
now.
Santita. And Santita, let me say this one last thing for all your people on YouTube and that listen to you. I appreciate and respect the job that you're doing, and that is getting the word out and really having these real conversations, keeping it real. And I know that, listen, I love Chicago because people in Chicago think like I do, but I live in a real conservative state. Oklahoma, Texas, they're very conservative and they're very Republican. And you need to understand that there's a part of America out there that we dismissed when this man got elected in 2016. We cannot dismiss him again. We got to work ever so hard, and people like you that's helping do that. And I have much love and respect for what you're doing, Santita. I know your brother's doing it in Congress, and we just have to keep up the fight.
Amen. I mean, and he talks across the aisle. Doesn't vote across the aisle, but he talks across the aisle. And that's the only way that we're going to have a prayer of working this out. You can't ignore people. When Jonathan got to Congress, he walked over and shook hands with Matt Gaetz and Lauren Biebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and on and on and on and on. And it was like, you're not afraid of people. You speak to people. He said, we've all been through the same meat grinder to get here. He said, so let's start there. And then he said, but, he's seen, not those persons, but other people, who he's developed other, really, really solid, close relationships with. And he said, boy, sometimes they flip, in these conversations and you go like, whoa, wait a minute.
I cannot echo that enough. And I think that what Biden has to do is Biden has to show that this is just not all political. He stayed out of the fray on the legal stuff. But I think more importantly, and kind of touching on it, is there's a group of people in the middle, independents, who aren't Democrats and who aren't Republicans, and are looking at this saying, nothing's getting done for our country. Is Congress going to ever do anything for the American people? Are we going to be in this quagmire of the Democrats defending Biden and his son and the Republicans going after Trump? And in the meantime, the American people get nothing done in the middle. Isn't that a sad state of America?
Well, it's kind of, let's not idealize America. I mean, the fact is we've made some progress, but this is who we are. We just have to make a decision about where we need to go. This is kind of sort of who we are now, so we just have to make a decision about, we have to grow up because we're a young country and we are very adolescent in our ways. If I don't have it my way, it's no way. That's not the way life works. And so America is going to have to grow up in her politics, so that you can determine that there is no floor beneath which any human being should fall, that justice has its eyes wide open and is going to be fair to everybody. You can't sell reefer. You can't sell cannabis out west and sell reefer in the urban world. Are you serious? Black and brown kids are going to prison here, and white kids are getting rich out west. That's not going to work. So we just have to grow up.
Well, Santita, I want to say, keep up the good work. I'll be happy to come on anytime. We can make the schedules work, and I will give your dad a call this evening. And much love to you and the Santita Jackson Show.
Much love to you, David Slane. I love you.
Talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
He's a wonderful, wonderful human being. Daryl, are you still there? Or you left? Who do I still have there? Dwight?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Janice, are you there? Daryl, anyone still here? Okay, Dwight, what did you hear? I mean, give me some closing thoughts.
Oh, no, I heard everything that I reinforced. It took a white guy from Oklahoma to say it.
Women kind of reminded you of Frank Watkins, right? Who tell us when this is how white people think, y'all. Just slow your roll.
And you can't discount that. You really can't discount that. And we discounted it. This is how Trump won. I was saying back in the day when folks were saying Trump could never be the president, I was saying don't discount that. I expect him to be the president. And so just because you see differently don't mean that you're pro or anti. It just means you see differently. And so what I heard him say is, you all don't discount the affection that people have for this guy and their willingness to go to the mat for this guy. And even though it may be legitimate and just in the pursuit of these criminal charges for him, and he then in fact committed a crime, is a big difference between you committing a crime and being charged with a crime, and you being found guilty of the crime you committed. That takes a jury. That's beyond you. That takes other people voting on what they perceive your behavior is. And I'm convinced once these guys, first I'm convinced there's not going to be the big flip that she's going for. I think she indicted all these folks because she thinks many of them going to flip. I don't think most of them are going to flip.
Why?
And I think because they are seasoned lawyers and they understand how difficult the case is going to be to prove, and they know what's at stake for themselves. That if they admit guilt, that they can run the risk of being disbarred and losing their careers. And so, in their own ways, they have as much at stake as he does. And so, I don't think many of them are going to flip. I think that there's some inherent weaknesses in the case. Which one is that you have to prove intent, that he didn't believe what he said he believed. And it's very hard when you deal with delusional people to convince them of anything. By definition, they're self-delusional, so they're going to believe whatever they want to believe because that's the nature of a self-delusional person.
Well, Dwight,
and so if you're trying to,
if you don't mind, that's why I tried to bring in the culture of power. I mean, no one wants to tell the emperor that he's wearing no clothes, or the empress that they're wearing no clothes. They don't do that. Everybody is jockeying to be the person who's next to the king or the queen. Everybody. So they will tell you,
even if they're looking in the mirror.
Come on.
Even if the king is looking in the mirror, on himself he's seeing clothes. It's the nature of being self-delusional. And so to prove that he didn't believe what he said is going to be very, very difficult. And the reason why is because he never said anything else. And all of his pursuit of, in these cases, what he was trying to convince other people was that they were wrong, that they didn't understand what was going on, that they didn't comprehend that this election had been stolen from him. He was trying to convince them of that. He never fought it from the belief that he didn't win. Even to this day, he believes that he won. And the other side of this is why I said, so you're also trying to convince the jury that the Keystone Cops is the mafia. This is an assortment of fairly incompetent people at the political level who, like you said, were trying to please the emperor. And now you're trying to turn this into some kind of conspiracy that they were trying to overthrow democracy? No. In many ways, it's going to play out that all they were trying to do was accommodate him so they could maintain their positions of power. They wasn't trying to overthrow democracy. They were trying to get a promotion.
Wait a minute. And make some money. Have a powerful friend. I know it's not what you want to hear, y'all, but that is how it works. Because one of the challenges. Oh, look, one of the challenges we have now that my father is physically immobilized. Well, not immobilized, but it's his mobility is completely challenged, and so is his speech. Everybody wants to speak for him. And people knock me and my brothers and my sister and try to knock my mother, but that's not going to happen, out the way. Because they're going to speak, and when I try to, because I challenge my father to speak so that I can understand him. Because he has to work harder. But when he works hard at it, you can understand him perfectly. And they want to, well, what he said was, now, you got to be out of your mind if you don't think that I don't understand what my father said. Are you nuts? I know what he meant. But it's to your advantage to be able to speak for him. It's to your advantage to push the wheelchair.
You recall all the people around him, how many people around him, powerful people, tried to get him to go with Dallas for their purposes?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's how power operates at that level. And so now to convince the jury that somehow this was this profound conspiracy is going to be a hard sell, I think. It's just me talking now. And again, you have a jury, it's going to be hard to get a black jury anyway. If you get all black jury, they're going to say that it was political and strategic. If you get a mixed jury, then you're gonna run the risk again of the Republican conservative white guys, which most of them are, trying to get them to convict a former president of charges where they themselves, some of them probably believe that he won the election and that they stole it from him. And so it's going to be a very difficult case to prove. If they, in fact, again, are able to prove it and he goes to jail, then it's going to be a military crisis. Because now you're going to divide the country in the middle of down the ends of you decapitated the opposition, it's a banana Republican, and now we got to fight to save the republic. If he, in fact, ends up winning and become the president, then he's going to take all the power of the presidency to decapitate everybody that went against him. And that's why I say what you're witnessing, War and others, is going to be the end of democracy.
Or is it the end of the republic? The republic?
In the both.
Okay.
In the both. The end of both. The end of both. This is going to be as your daddy used to say, high cotton. This thing is going to get much more deep, much more intense than we see it to be. This is my story. This is my song.
Okay. Well, Carol Soskin said, "Oy vey, I hear you, babe, but we're at an inflection point." But you see, we're not alone. If you look at what's happening in Niger, when you look at the former French colonies, the former colonized countries of the world, we're at an inflection point. You look at Ukraine and Russia and China and NATO and the African Union and ECOWAS and on and the IMF and all this, we're at an inflection point. In the world, there is a great reset. And, you just need to understand that what was is not going to be. Now we have to decide where we're going. But I promise you, the world is reorganizing the former colonies are reorganizing themselves around their own money. And they're going to deal with America and Europe very differently. I promise you. It might not happen in this particular iteration of this revolution, but France is not going to be able to get steal this uranium from Niger the way they've been able to do it before. That's not going to happen. The people have had it. Things are changing. Things are changing. And you have Black men who are going to be on that jury, Dwight, who see this man as someone who will fight the power. Fight the power. I mean, that's because you project onto a candidate what you need them to be for you. He's someone who said the game is rigged, and it's rigged against you.
And this Biden thing is going to get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Don't discount this Biden thing, y'all. This thing is going to get pretty intense. Yeah, he may not be the candidate when all is said and done.
Well, just watch how they are lifting up Gavin Newsom now. Watch that. Watch how they're lifting him up. And what would they do with Kamala? I don't think they'd have two Californians on the ticket. Pay attention. A lot is happening. A lot is happening. A lot is happening.
So as far as Gump used to say, that's all I got to say about that.
And look into the camera. And blink your eyes.
That's all I got.
That's all I got to, and sit up straight. That's all I got to say about that. How about that? All right. I love you, everybody. I hope that you got something. If Obama did these crimes, he'd be under the jail. D. Ray Jones. Thank you, Paula. Love my public enemy girl. I got a real good one. Oh my gosh. Osa says it will not, Dwight. Facts are facts. Do you know why they didn't come up with the impeachment? They got no facts. Are you speaking of Biden, Osa? Can you type that in very quickly and let me know? So I wish you all would call in. I know you can't do it right now. Um, okay, but well, maybe he was okay. He's speaking of Biden. That Biden was not impeached because there are no facts. Impeachment is also very political too, Osa. What do you think about that, Dwight?
That show is not over. They in commercial break now. That show is not over.
Oh boy. Well, there we go. And there is that. And that's all I've got to say about that. So it's just that, it's something because remember, also, they did not want Biden to run, but they felt that a lot of the business dealings in which Hunter and they as a family are engaged would become a problem. Just go back to 2017, 2018, 2019. It was when it was getting clearer and clearer that Biden was going to run. There are articles that's they didn't reference that. They spoke to that. They said that this was going to be a problem. So here we are, you know. So just to think about that, everybody, and pay attention to all of these hearings. I don't care who's running them, the Republicans or the Democrats, please. Just get over that. Listen to what people are saying. Understand the worldviews. Don't let the news commentators and corporate media tell you how to think and feel about someone. Listen to what people have to say and then make up your own minds. That's what you have to do. No, you said they have checked it and nothing came up. Well, we'll see. We will see. We'll see, Osa. We'll see. Newsmax, Robert says Newsmax is saying that Trump is going to respond on Monday. And Osa, I'm not, I hope you don't feel that I'm insulting you because that certainly is not my point. That is not about the news commentators, but our views are shaped. That's why we only watch one channel or two and not the other, or watch this channel and not the others. And I can tell you, I worked at Fox News. Some of the best on the ground reporting on a local level is done by them. They're the reason it was their local station that gave us the Trayvon Martin story. Okay. Be very clear in media, because we don't have the press anymore. We have the media. You don't have any friends there. Ask Phil Donahue, MSNBC, the progressives, the people who are going to give you peace. They're not pro-peace. Donahue was pro-peace. They put him off the air. He was their number one show as they were building the network. He was their number one show, and the show was growing by leaps and bounds, literally by the day. They put him off the air because he was talking about not going into Iraq, and they make missiles. They make bombs. Their parent company, GE, that's what they do. They put him off the air. Boom, that's how that works. I remember Hillary Benghazi, but that's all politicized. All of it is. All of it is. All of it is. Do I know all the politics behind it? That's above my pay grade. But I know enough to know that this stuff is very, very politicized. And oftentimes, there is a backstory. We don't know what it is. Don't know what it is. But I do know that this is going to be a very, very interesting time. So read as much as you can, get as much information as you can, just like Maui. They're not telling you that these people who've been burned out of their homes and who've been dispossessed of their lands, they don't tell you that first, this was the first capital of Hawaii, that these are sacred lands to indigenous Hawaiians, that particular patch of land, that there were historic buildings in that area. They're all gone. They don't tell you that corporations, conglomerates, and the wealthy who are there were trying to remove these people from that area. They don't tell you that. I had to dig and bump into a YouTube video and go, wait a minute, huh? And keep on digging and go, oh, wow, I didn't know that the billionaires' compounds were not disturbed, but only that part of Maui was disturbed. I mean, what is that? So when they talk about being angry because government assistance didn't reach them, no, when they went to the fire hydrant, no water was there. They all tell you there was no siren that went off to let them know that they needed to move. There's a lot to that story. And ain't nobody talking about it. And they will get paid pennies on the dollar if they are insured, and they must get out of there. So think about that, everybody. Just think about that. There's a lot going on all the time. So I love you, everybody. Dwight McKee, you have anything else you want to say before we go?
Assalamu alaikum.
All right now. God bless you. Love you, everybody. God bless. Cannot wait to be with you tomorrow, Lord willing. Carolyn Ruff, didn't get a chance to address you during the show. I hope you're still there, but I certainly will speak with you in the morning. Carolyn Ruff lost a member of her family. Please send her some love, everybody. We'll leave the line open for a few more minutes, but send her some love today. 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 Your point is not to justify what Trump did and discredit Biden. This is not about doing either. This is not about justifying Trump. It's not about discrediting Biden. You know what? I'm anti-corruption, Osa, period. I don't want anyone to take advantage of the system the way that so many people do, period. And I don't know how it is that we have suffered so under government oppression. The FBI is still spies on Black activists and progressives. And yet now we trust them more than ever. And that's happened since we had a Black president. I get it. I'm just saying something about that is like, I don't know. The skepticism that we had that helped us to survive, we're losing. I don't think that's smart. I don't think it's wise. I don't think it's wise. So I love you, everybody. Love you, Dwight. We're out of here. And everybody send Carolyn Ruff some love today. Send her some prayers. She needs them. She needs someone to lean on right now. And we are blessed to be able to do that. Yeah. My mother's from Florida, Osa. And she does not go back. And now I know why. Love you.